All right, that was in honor of Jamaican Independence Day. We are
Did
back.
you play anything?
Did y'all not hear it?
No.
All I saw was Henry's face. Like,
I didn't hear anything either.
yeah,
I'm like, what is
But I
he
thought maybe
doing?
I wasn't on the audio link for that.
Well, I'm leaving this in because we're still recording. Anywho, I was playing a song. I wonder if the listeners will actually be able to hear it. But anywho, thank you for all of you letting me know. This is episode number 55. Once again, Henry, Noah, myself, and McKenzie. And I will let Henry introduce our special guest this time.
Well, it seemed like we're coming a little ghetto today, but we're going to fix it up for y'all. So this is my Neo, my man's from Howard University. He's currently attending Harvard Law School. He's a smart guy. Might be your senator one day. But Jamieson, you can do a little spiel on yourself.
Wow, I love the the high aspirations in the intro. But hello, yeah, my name is Jamieson. As Henry said, I am a current incoming first-year law student at Howard University School of Law. And I'm coming here today representing the Sunrise Movement, especially the DC Hub. The Sunrise Movement, for those of you who don't know, we are a collection of youth activists who are fighting for a world of climate justice and, in fact, imparting a Green New Deal.
Awesome. All right.
You have a great voice. You have like a podcast voice, I guess.
You do.
Like you're right where you belong.
Oh, thank you.
All right, so we're going to get into the first topic. So as you all know, there's still an election going on. News is happening every day. The most important thing that happened besides a recent slip up by Biden today, which we can also
Is it still a slip up at this point?
At this point.
Well, we can contrast the good and the bad. So Biden recently released a HBCU plan. Last week, he released his plan that was aimed at achieving racial equity for Black and Brown communities, and specifically targets historically Black colleges and minority-serving institutions. The plan proposes that students would receive tuition-free access to 4-year HBCUs and MSIs if their families earn below $125,000. Biden is also proposing forgiving all federal student debt for public colleges and private HBCUs, as well as MSIs, for individuals earning up to $125,000. So can this increase enthusiasm in his campaign, or will his recent comments about Black people not being the first? Policy-wise, this is good.
Before we get into that, what are MSIs?
Minority-serving institutions.
So, like
those who are of Latino descent, they have institutions.
Oh, okay.
Asian Pacific Islander, stuff like that.
Okay. Well, let's let our guests take a shot first before we give our opinions.
I love policy. I care about a politician's policy 10 times more than what they say. And yeah, I think policy-wise, this is a good plan, but I do not believe Biden is the person to really market this well. People don't really see him as trustworthy when it comes to economic justice issues, as someone who, of course, was the pioneer and author of the bank bill, which is a reason a lot of students have such crushing, debilitating student debt. And the bankruptcy bill made it harder to get rid of that debt. So I do think that this is a small step in the right direction for the harm that he's caused. But I do think, considering some of his past records, he should be going a lot further.
Henry, I know you were firing off today. How say you? Because I think, like James said, this is a step in the right direction. It's just Biden can't seem to get over his own self.
That's what it is for me. It's like we're all saying, it's a step in the right direction. Of course, it helps. You know what I'm saying? That whole thing where I think Black people as a whole right now are encouraged going to HBCUs and supporting Black business and blah, blah, blah. How we have one of the number one recruits coming to Howard and all of them consider other schools. I think this aligns that kind of, you know what I'm saying, same movement and momentum. So maybe if people thinking about that, yeah, sure, cool. But I think that at the forefront of people's mind is Biden is a F up. I'm sorry. Well, I'm not sorry. He needs to be sorry because it's he continues to do the same stupid stuff. And like we said last time, I think we said at the time before that, who that heck is on his campaign, like controlling the communications, the media, the publicity of this stuff. Because
But we know who's on it.
right.
Yeah.
So the point is, like, why are y'all allowing this man to continue to say this? And the thing is, like, you're going against your core, like, supporters here, right? Like, you continue to say things to trigger them. So I don't understand, like, what is it, bro? Like, what, for real, what is, like, what's up?
I guess
McKenzie.
my thing about this is like you all said, he should just be doing so much more than this. Because like getting kids or students to go to HBCUs, I don't know. Like I know we talk amongst ourselves about, you know, getting more Black people to go to HBCUs versus PWIs, but like enrollment, at least in my experience at Howard, I don't think enrollment was the issue.
Well, it would never.
Like enrollment wasn't the issue.
That's not the issue.
Yeah,
I mean,
having the funds, being able to afford the institution.
That's what I'm about to say. If we pinpointed on what Jamieson was talking about, how like this goes into like student debt and like in some way obtaining wealth in America, this helps out in that way. You know what I'm saying? People don't have to go to these schools. And like Howard, it's a private institution, and we know that Howard's expensive and getting through Howard is hard. And especially if you don't have the resources to get through Howard. So him making it like a free tuition, especially for the households that some people in these institutions do exist, because it is wealth in the Black community that is like, we understand that. But the point is, like, I definitely think it'll help in that regard. But to your point, it is more that he needs to be doing.
Yeah.
This is not like, this is like the bare minimum to me.
Yeah, this is the bare minimum. And I think we like an issue at HBCUs is resources. And I think like even the second point of like forgiving all federal student loan debt, like, I mean, I'm not really, I guess I support it in the grand scheme of things, but I don't really support the half federal and then not private. Like if you're going to do it when it comes to like student loans and forgiving it, I think it should be across the board.
That's another conversation too, right there. You know how right now the government has the freeze on like private loans, and public loans are still taxing. They still got the interest on there.
Like, do you mean to reverse that?
Well, yeah. I should.
Yeah. I was about to say.
I'm sure.
They still collect it for private.
Yeah, I was about to be specific. Sally Mae still taxing her little interest, but like Nelnet and the government contractors, they're not, like all of that stuff on hold. So like that right there, that little thing, because like you can for real pay your loan off. But yeah.
I mean, I think
he could do better.
Yeah, I mean, I think before we go on to the next thing, I think like Jamieson said, like it's all about how are you able to market it? Because you can have a good plan, but if you can't describe it, it doesn't, or why it's needed, it kind of falls on deaf ears. So as we know, a couple weeks ago, civil rights icon John Lewis passed away.
I was about, when is he picking his VP?
Any day now.
Ooh, any day now.
Probably right before the convention.
Any day now.
August 30th, yeah.
So
do you feel a type of way about not actually attending in person, or is that like toward the?
No, that's just I mean, I guess we could have kind of assumed that was gonna happen because of just COVID and stuff. Yeah, but I think as far as announcing VP, definitely next week or the week after. But
okay. I just want to like, put that tidbit in there.
Within 7 days, we'll know. I won't be shocked if we know like by Monday, because that's like a good news day to like.
We want to bid on who? Or we just gonna keep moving.
Let's just each go around. Who do we think?
Susan Rice.
Jamieson, go first. Oh, you already said who?
Who do we think or want?
I guess both, yeah.
All right, I know it's only like a 2% chance, but I think Pramila Jayapal or Barbara Lee.
Yeah, that's not happening.
I know, but I just think that would be like.
Okay, never mind. Never mind.
The left, I think that's who you should
ahead.
Well, that is who you want. Good point. Okay.
I mean, I don't know. I don't really. Honestly, I'll be honest. Who I would want, I don't know who I would want, because I really don't know most of them besides like Kamala. But who I really think he's going to do is probably Kamala, I'm a guess. But I wouldn't mind Bass though. I think that would be a good wild card. But I mean, I really don't know. I'll be shocked either way.
Yeah, I think I feel the same way. Like, I definitely think he's going to pick Kamala. And how they've been like working together, it kind of seems that way.
But I just can't see Kamala like taking a back seat. I feel like she's just gonna be like,
okay. This
I can see her doing it
this is my
though.
strategy
I
for
think
it. Can
she'd
I
do
put a
it.
conspiracy out there? Y'all know I'm a little hotep, baby hotep. Can I put my little thing? I think picking Kamala is like, I think me and Noah talked about this. We might have talked about it on the podcast to where like she's gonna be the front runner for like 2024. That's one, and then two. I mean, we clearly see this man might be struggling with dementia or something. So, like, she can get the job done. And God, please, like, reporters, I might have put something out there wrong. This is just like a silly, like, gift for him. But we clearly see that he gets on camera and forgets his words and all that. So,
it's old.
yeah, he just, you know what I'm saying? He's straight. Dementia was a joke. I apologize. That's a serious, like, accusation. I take that. I retract that. But yeah, I think picking Kamala is a smart thing because we can trust her to get the job done, but we don't like her to be the front runner. Like it covers up a little bit.
I want him to pick Kamala. I actually think if the smart choice for him is probably picking Susan Rice because Susan Rice is the least averse person.
Yeah.
And Kamala does come with risk. The first question, if I was a reporter, you called this man a racist and said that he segregated you from going to it.
I would just be like, roll the clip.
Yeah, like roll that clip.
For the democracy.
Yeah.
All the Republicans in the Senate did the same thing for Trump.
Yeah.
Oh, that's what I was gonna say. And then on top of that people were suggesting that he pick Condoleezza. So like that's like
Susan Rice to me is a smart choice only because it's just she's Susan Rice and there's no risk there. But I mean that's fine. Henry, that was a good topic to bring up. So as I was saying, a couple weeks ago, civil rights icon John Lewis passed away. He was key in the civil rights battles of the 60s, including the Freedom Rides, the Voting Rights March to Montgomery, Alabama, and he was the youngest speaker at the March on Washington at 23. I really don't want to cover what Trump said and mainly focus on John Lewis. So kind of like, what are your, especially Jamieson, like for someone who's in the movement and organizing and doing all this activism now, what should we take away from not only his life, his activism, but also kind of his continued fight for justice? What's kind of like your main takeaway from kind of everything that we've seen these past couple weeks?
I mean, I think the best way to honor John Lewis is to emulate what he was about, emulate what made him famous, emulate like the cause of justice that he fought and sacrificed so hard for. As you said, like he was an organizer from the age of 17 and by the time he was 23, he was 6 years in, had already started the the Students Nonviolent Coordinating Committee. And that did great things. It was great on the ground activism, and like almost all political revolutions, they all happen from the youngest people in society that like are fed up with the status quo, are fed up the way the things they are, and said the way we will get older will not be the way we grew up, and that we should take away from like someone who was on the ground and active, but then also someone who didn't betray their values, didn't betray their morals, was still advocating not just participation in democracy through voting, but also advocating like the true embodiment of democracy. And that is at all time holding your leaders accountable. That is at all times saying that I, as one of the 332 million Americans, have one out of 332 million choice in what we say happens in society, and not letting that be taken away from you, even if they try to take it away from felony disenfranchisement in Florida, or they want to say that you're undocumented because you don't have this piece of paper, you don't have the right to control or have any say over the laws that govern your body. So I just say that, you know, we should still be active. We should still be out there.
y'all hear that young senator down there.
TED Talk.
Y'all hear him. That's the part of John Lewis though, because he had hit me up. Or because I had posted a picture.
Who hit you up?
Yeah, you just went in blind there.
My bad. I mean, it was like a thought out loud, and I was gonna explain it. My bad. Jamieson responded to one of my stories on Instagram where I posted like Barack and John Lewis hugging. And I'm like, I gotta get this framed in the crib. And then it's another photo of them like actually re-imitating like the Bloody Sunday, which John Lewis led. But yeah, he responded, and it was just interesting to hear like his thought pattern behind it, because it was like, well, Obama didn't necessarily stand for black. I was just having a moment right there. But yeah, John Lewis. It was cool to say that I met him like in person. He's a member of my fraternity, Phi Beta Sigma Fraternity Incorporated. And not to like gas nothing, but it's members like him, like, you know what I'm saying, that inspired me to join the fraternity because of the work they've done in the Black community and help progress us. Like Jamieson said, they were young, like 16, 17, 20, 21, 23. Like they were young doing this stuff. And like I think the thing that's most inspiring about his life, and we should take from it, especially in this generation, our age group, is like, again, they were doing this while they were young. And we always be like, oh, my ancestors this and we're better, whatever. And it's like, well, what are you really doing for the movement? Like, what are you doing to help Black people progress in this society? And again, what Jamieson said, he never bent on that moral, that value of like helping Black people progress. That was what he stood for, and he didn't care by any means. This man took so many beatings, jailed so many times, like put his life in harm's way. So to me, that means a lot. And to say I shook his hand and stood in his presence, I'm honored, honestly. Yeah, like when I like it was crazy because like yeah, it's crazy.
McKenzie?
I think him and CT Vivian, who we lost
Right.
the same day almost.
Right.
Same time. I think it's like what I really took away from at least John Lewis himself is like the fact that like I didn't know that he was so young, like 23. And I guess like us being that age or like around that age and stuff, and just knowing like how much he accomplished at such a young age, it kind of like put a fire in me. Like there's so much more that we can really be doing, you know, like there's so much more that you really can be doing with your life and like for your people and stuff. So I'll always have respect for him and CT Vivi, everyone like a part of that. And what's really crazy about that is that when they passed away, like I was like, you know, going down a hole and looking at old pictures and stuff, and just to think like almost, I think it's just Jesse Jackson that's left from that circle.
Yes, not many.
It's not many. So just to think that most of them from that era have passed away already is so important for us.
I'm getting shit somebody now thinking about it, because again, to the point of like, I think I was watching some interview where not the little girl, Portia from like the Real Housewives. Her grandfather is Hosea Williams, who also in that circle. And she was saying basically how like she's scared because all of our leaders, like our forefathers of civil rights, they're gone and they never got to like necessarily pass the baton. And like you know what I'm saying, like Al Sharpton and Martin Luther King Jr. son is skeptical of like impact, especially because we're in a pandemic. And then two is like, I don't personally hear much from the son. So it's like, how do you just come out in your father's shadow now to say, oh, I'm here for the movement, just because you have that legacy? I mean, like, you have the right to, that's what I'm saying. I've never really heard of the work that he's done to where it's like it's making impactful change. So that's what I'm saying. Like, I don't really understand or know the impact it's going to make. It's like with those two people putting it or organizing it.
Well, I'll say this. I think it's important for us to realize that the movement is not going to look like what it was in the past.
Yeah,
I think the movement of what we're like, what it is, because I would say like Gen Z and like even our generation, I hate to group ourselves in millennials because we're like millennials such like a big,
we're like in
we're like at the
tip
end of the millennial. So like Gen Z and like our generation, it's just gonna look different. Are we gonna have like a Martin Luther King or a John Lewis, or like are we gonna have like figures in themselves? No, but I think the collectiveness of like using social media and rallying behind as like more of a collective movement, I think is something that's just different. So I don't want us to be like, you know, necessarily pass the torch, because I just think that the movement is just completely different now because of just the technology that we have.
That's fair to say.
No, that's facts. And I think one thing that needs to be said is that John Lewis was there when the Voting Rights Act of 1965 was passed, and that needs to be restored. And I think that Congress can do all this talking about how they want to honor his life. Like, the way to do it's right there. And until they actually allow Black people to have automatic voter ID, to not get their voter ID laws stripped away or have felony restrictions, that's the work that needs to be done. And the fact that Nancy Pelosi and members of Congress haven't already gotten that through, I think that's a real disgrace. So I think that's something that, we all need to just make sure that they're honest on, because it's not that hard.
That's like a subtopic of something I think we brought up in a group of how celebrities and people in the limelight or whomever choose to like say they stand behind somebody or rally behind somebody, but when it's time for you to actually like put that support up,
they're not doing it.
Yeah.
So the biggest news that happened today on Thursday, August 6th, was the Attorney General and Jamieson's fellow Howard alum of the law school, Letitia James, filed a lawsuit against the National Rifle Association following an 18-month investigation that found the organization is fraught with fraud and abuse. The Attorney General James, her wish, if she gets her wish, is actually to dissolve the NRA entirely. Her investigation found that the NRA had financial misconduct in the millions of dollars that contributed to the loss of more than $64 million over 3 years. I was kind of on what McKenzie tweeted earlier, like, Black women, y'all just grab the baton and just run laps ahead. But Jamieson, as a current Howard law student and the kind of legal mind of the group, do you have any kind of thoughts on the case or kind of what's been unfolding with this? Because I'm excited, like, down with the NRA. That needs to be the talking point.
I won't get too excited, but go ahead, Jamieson.
A famous professor of Howard University School of Law, Charles Hamilton Houston, said, as a lawyer, you're either one of two things. You're either a parasite on society or you're a social engineer. And, the Howard University School of Law tries to create social engineers, and that's what you call social engineering there. That is what you call being a prosecutor actually for the people, a prosecutor to protect people, not to protect corporate interests and protect power. And what she is doing there is unique in the fact of like what all prosecutors do. Everything else that a corporation would do is they just ask for a fine. Oh, you stole $68 million, then pay a $3 million fine. But she actually wants the dissolvation of the dissolving of an institution. That's big, that's huge, that's structural. That's something that'll last for years, and it'll ensure the action isn't repeated instead of what most prosecutors would go for, which is a fine that gets paid off and you get a tax write-off for it and you start doing it again next week. So I just, can't say anything.
I think intricacy of it, because this is going to last for years, and is she going to actually dissolve it? And I don't want to be that pessimistic person, but
it's a big task. It's a big task.
It's a big task, but at least she's doing it. And
that's what I was about to say. She's going for the like bigger pot theory, where she's probably grouping several people named in like the defendants. And
like the CEOs and like all the executives are like specific.
That's how that's gonna play out. I definitely hope she gets to go up the rank, and honestly, she'll be able to set some type of precedent to where somebody else could come up and pick up, like we said, passing that baton, pick it up, do some investigating, and like continue that work to eventually dissolve or disband or whatever, because the NRA is very dangerous. It's dangerous, man.
And it needs to just go away. Like, the NRA is notoriously racist. Like, and I think that this is just also a testament of like prosecutors, like Jamieson said, for the people. Like, I feel like Kamala was a prosecutor, right?
He was.
Yeah.
She was.
And I feel like people kind of just using her as an example, like people kind of use her and like use the title prosecutor as like that's bad and you can't possibly be like a good prosecutor or whatever. But it's definitely possible. So I'm just really excited to see how far that this goes, because like we already just said, like the fact of her trying to dissolve them and not just sue and like get them to pay the money back or whatever, I think that that's really like she's putting her neck out there. And I really hope that, other local heads and like political officials or whatever can really support her, because the NRA, I mean, before this, years before, like the NRA, I just feel like has just been a thorn, like has always been an issue. And I just would love to see like some serious action happen, whether it be completely dissolved or like lessen their rights or whatever. But they just like, I'm just excited to see where she takes this. And to your point, Noah, about Black women like holding it down. Black women are tired. Why did it have to take her to do this? Because I feel like after this, especially if the NRA is as notoriously racist as they are, this woman's probably going to get death threats. She's probably going to get a lot of heat from this. And I hate that it had to be a Black woman to take all of this on, because I know it's probably going to be hell for her.
Like, I think that's the interesting point, is that I think she's the one pushing the ball forward, but also falling on the sword of like, I'm going to be the boogeyman to these Republicans. But like you said, that means that everyone else needs to like step up. Like Henry, like I know you were excited that the DC Attorney General, Carl Racine, he hopped on. Like, so clearly people need to like not only be like, hey, we support you, but like, no, we're coming after that ass too.
Publicly
like,
stick their necks out with her.
Topic of like Black women and all of this or whatever. Like, if you think about like top prosecutors, I can't think of the lady name in Chicago, but you definitely have like Mary Mosby in Baltimore, and then there's a few more around the country that are actually doing like real time work to actively change the Black community. So
Larry Krasner.
Right.
Philly.
Right.
Philly.
Krasner too, up in Philadelphia. So it's like a lot of people that are actually, you just gotta look out for it a little bit, because it doesn't always make national news, and then when it does, it kind of like get washed to the back of your brain. So you do gotta like show kudos to that, and I hope a lot of them pay attention to this and figure out what they can do in their particular city, which is why I kind of am like Carl Racine. He's a cool dude, but like I'm glad that he hopped on, and maybe that'll like start some type of, something. Are catching on and attempting to try to tackle the problem with her.
Boom. Nah, so since we have Jamieson on, and you already talked about your great work with the Sunrise Movement, we're kind of going to pivot and kind of get into kind of more of your work there. You already kind of described what your work was when you first kind of gave the intro. So I'll ask, like, you've been involved in a lot of the climate activist protests and the civil rights protests and the police brutality protests. Obviously, like, the protest has been this big inflection point for the nation and kind of grappling with all of these issues. But, we've been doing that for, as we talked about with John Lewis, for over 50 years. What's kind of that next step that you see as an activist of like, we did the protest, what's that next step to you in terms of actually achieving, all of the calls that you all, especially at the Sunrise Movement, are demanding for?
Well, I believe you could do anything with the power of organization and mobilization. So I see protesting as a secular thing, as a circular thing, as in it's always going to be a rise and flow, ebbs and flows. And I feel the next step is more of the same of what we've been doing, and then figuring out what is the most effective ways to levers of power. I feel accentuate where is enfranchised now, and the only and best place to affect the democratic process is at the ballot box. While the ballot box is important, we also have to recognize the limitations of the ballot box. And that comes from especially the role that finances and large money interests play in politics. If you want to be a senator, it costs millions of dollars. How would you going to be a grassroots politician senator that believes in things section and ending imperialist wars all over the country? Like, that only happens through a large sum of finances that a lot of working class people don't have to give. And because of that, money, the power is skewed towards those who have money, like the defense industry, the pharmaceutical industry, the fossil fuel industry, which the Sunrise Movement that I'm a part of is sworn to try to defeat. And the way we could do it is get involved in local activism around you. All politics are local. Here in DC, there are very good organizations. Shout out to the DC Tenants Union, the DC chapter of the NAACP, the DC chapter of DSA, the DC chapter of Extinction Rebellion. A lot of these, some more institutional, some more free-forming, leaderful, not leaderless, but leaderful, grassroots movements are on the ground, organizing power. In Seattle, they held a Seattle autonomous zone in one of the abandoned police precincts for, I believe, a week. And now Seattle has had a majority, a veto-proof majority of the Seattle City Council pledged to defund the Seattle police budget by 50%. And they've already voted to take all of Seattle police out of schools. The power of protest movement is something that I feel is being reawakened now in this generation. And I can't wait to see as it expands and the increased involvement and see just working classes, people power grow. And as their power grows, the benefits that they're able to gain from society will grow as well.
Yeah. So as the election approaches, I feel like, obviously, the coronavirus and whatever Trump says on a daily basis is going to dominate the national news, or whatever slip up Biden says that day is also going to dominate the national news. So like, as someone who is working on behalf of, the Sunrise Movement and climate, and there's also that nuance that, how climate affects minority communities is not often talked about. Is there a specific kind of issue within the Sunrise Movement, or just in general personally, that you want to get more attention among, the press, congressional candidates, the president, or even like just on the ground locally? Is there a kind of like an issue that you feel that needs to be addressed with just haven't gotten any attention?
Well, this is going to be the obvious answer, but of course, climate change and climate justice. Since May, the reporting of climate change since May in 2020 has had 29% less reporting on climate change from May 2019, which journalists, fact checkers have confirmed that. And we're talking about the pandemic, but what we do a lot of times in American culture, especially in American media and press, they never give context. They never give context of what this pandemic is and where it comes from. And this pandemic comes from the things that the Sunrise Movement is trying to fight. What is at the basis of the carbon economy and fossil fuel extraction is the desire for always more and more resources and more consumption. They say that the coronavirus is a zoological disease, which means that it came from us encroaching on habitats of animals that used to live peacefully in the wild and shared microbes with each other, and isn't harmful to them. But when humans come in contact with them, it can be harmful to us and transform into a virus that is shutting down the world's economy and killing hundreds of thousands of people. And that is directly linked to the systems of extraction, of climate racism, of climate injustices that the Sunrise Movement seeks to fight and abolish. And as what you said for environmental racism, as I said, Sunrise is a climate justice organization. What that means is justice is what love looks like in public. And for your loved ones, you will not sit behind while your loved ones are exploited. You will not sit behind while your loved ones is taken over by an occupying army, as what's happening right now in Palestine. You will not sit by as democratically elected governments are overthrown by your government, like what is happening in Bolivia. So like a climate justice organization, an international one, is one that just has love for all people and wants the same for them, the same prosperity for them as that you would want for yourself. And that's why Sunrise really enforces in the Green New Deal to make sure it is an anti-racist piece of legislation, a piece of legislation that rights the racist wrongs, that rights the wrongs of Superfund sites being put in Black communities, lead paints being used to paint households in urban communities, the places like Cancer Alley where all of the fossil fuel waste is sent and people have a lifespan of 60 years because of the increased poison in the environment. And then what we're doing to people international, what we're doing to other people's countries when we go and take and destroy the ecology to extract these fossil fuels.
I love it. Thank you for that beautiful answer. A lot of nuggets in there. So now we're gonna get into the heads up, and I will let our resident entertainment expert Henry Woods take this one. So a record number of Black actors were nominated for the 2020 Emmys, making up 34% of the nominees. That's still not good enough, but we're going to take it as is. These nominations included Zendaya for Euphoria and Regina King for The Watchmen. Henry, not only plug your weekly IG live, but also what did you have any kind of big takeaways from your brand of entertainment?
You know what I'm saying? If y'all be on IG, tune in. I did this movie review. It's on live, Last King Henry. But yeah, like this is cool, but like I really think it's performative, and this might be like to y'all, but I think it's performative, especially with like the times now, because all the great work that Black people have done, and no shade to what's going on now because it's still great work, but it's like, why now? And then on top of that, like some of the stuff I don't personally agree with, or like they were just doing just to do, because like Pose, for instance, like none of the like transgender people got nominated.
Yeah, I saw that, right.
Like, that's weird because like dude that got nominated is not the best actor on that show.
Yeah, everyone said like Angelica Ross is like the best one on the right. Yeah.
Right, so it's just weird to see, especially because the Emmys and Oscars and all these big Academy Awards or whatever have been under fire for the last couple years of like being more inclusive and so it's like I hope whomever the board is actually writing rules and regulations to change how voting is, so like this continues to happen. And it's not just happening like right now because of the times and what's going on in America. And everybody wants to be like Black Lives Matter, which we, you know what I'm saying? We love to support.
We'll take it. Yeah.
But at the same time, if you're really going to support and enact change, you need to actually ensure that it's a policy in place that kind of continues the same momentum.
McKenzie, how say you? I just want Regina King to get her flowers. That's all I really care about.
Should have got beat flowers.
I think like everything what Henry said, but I think it's also important for like all of this stuff to like be happening behind the camera too. Like,
yeah.
Like just like going off of like everything that's happening with like Ellen and that show and stuff. Mm-hmm. Not to say that I never assumed that it was diverse, or like I kind of always thought Ellen looked a little crazy, but but it's just like it's important that it's just things behind the camera, the work environment, the people who are actually putting together these shows, who's putting together, like who's in the writer's room, who's actually directing,
producers, makeup,
casting, like that matters too. So I hope that all of these people, you know, get their flowers and stuff. But on the Pose thing, I thought it was very interesting. Like last year, Billy Porter, it was like a clip of him on the red carpet after
I know what you're gonna say.
Talking about this is a win for all or whatever. But I guess back then or last year, it's like I mean I guess,
which is not incorrect, but it's not the inclusive answer you need.
Yeah, it's not. And now looking at it, it's kind of like no, it's obviously like this is a heteronormative win for him. And I hate to, and it does suck though. Like I will say, it sucks when you are in that situation where it's like I want to enjoy my win, but I also have to put on and be inclusive for my cast members and stuff. But it's just like it's so obvious that I feel like Billy, come on now, like you should have well equipped
that one better.
Yeah.
It goes to today's show. How much you're willing to sacrifice for the progress of your people.
Yeah.
Boom. Tagline. Got it. Come on, writer. So the next topic I specifically want to engage Jamieson on. So on Tuesday, Cori Bush defeated longtime incumbent Rep. William Lacey Clay for a seat in the House, which represents St. Louis. She is
shout out to St. Louis.
Do that. Bush is a former nurse who became a Black Lives Matter activist following the murder of Michael Brown. Jamieson, I'm assuming that you're ecstatic about this, since this is someone who was on the ground doing the work and is now going to be a member of Congress, which means one more progressive vote, one more vote who's not going to just kind of take we should do this, but kind of push more. So this is good, right?
Super ecstatic. Oh my gosh. And of course, Cori Bush was endorsed by the Sunrise Movement. We made over 150,000 calls for her collectively. And
you better do that
one. Come on now.
That's what I'm talking about.
Yeah, that's what's up.
Yeah, that's crazy.
And yeah, just excited to get more progressives in Congress. And like, you know what I mean? She was the first Justice Democrat, and now she finally gets her flowers, and is finally there. Like, oh my gosh, it's gonna be just amazing in Congress. As AOC says, the squad keeps getting bigger, and soon I'm envisioning a progressive caucus.
About it. That's what's beautiful. I didn't mean to cut you off, but that's what's beautiful about it. Like,
it really is. It's great.
Keep getting bigger, and this is what we do. What's really going? We inform the people, let y'all know, make them calls. Give them mail-in ballots, y'all.
But I also think this goes to the point of like, I mean, I don't remember when John Lewis became, obviously I don't remember because I wasn't alive. But the fact that it is getting bigger and like the squad is getting bigger. So I do think it's important for us to like know that the movement might not look the same as like Martin Luther King and them, but like there are more progressive people coming into seats of power. So we just have to hope that they know what they're doing and use it to the best of their ability.
Boom.
And keep pressuring them after they get elected. That's the thing.
Yeah,
don't let anyone feel comfortable.
Yeah.
Facts. So the last thing that we have, the United States, this is probably a topic that we're going to talk about a lot as the election gets closer. The United States Postal Service is recommending voters request their mail-in ballots as early as possible and send them as soon as you get them. Concerns are growing that due to COVID, naturally everyone's in the house and no one wants to take their butt and vote. So
I just sent in my application to get my mail-in ballot.
Oh, yeah, you just reminded me. Let me go pull that up.
Yes, please do.
I mean, in a nutshell, this is probably gonna be a real hot mess.
It's gonna be a mess. You know they're about to suppress us.
Right.
And my vote in Georgia.
But be nice to your local but be nice to your local mailman. I had to reel myself in because I lost the package a couple weeks. Well, I didn't lose the package. They lost my package. I had to reel myself in because I know that they're going through it. But yeah, like it especially with this,
bad.
It's bad. It's bad. And I really feel like Trump is going to do everything he can to make sure that it goes in his favor because, I mean, why wouldn't you in this situation?
So the biggest thing that he's now trying to do is that a lot of the postal service workers that they would normally get overtime, but now the Trump administration is saying, we're basically going to cut your overtime so you're not going to get incentivized financially to stay, so you're not going to. And as everyone is sending in mail-in ballots, the system's going to be over-flooded. And some states, like
they
Georgia,
know what they're doing. Like this be the funny thing about like Trump and his people. Like the figurehead is stupid, but his little behind him, they know exactly
what they're doing. And like for people like Henry and in other states, specifically in the South, get your mail-in ballots in because a lot of states will not accept your mail-in ballot if it comes on election day. It has to come before, which is discriminatory as it is. But I suggest everyone go to this website. It's votesaveamerica.com/B-A-voter/. That's the best place to get information on where to get signed up, for how to know where your mail-in ballot is, for where to send it. So just keep on that because that's
you can't follow that link because that was kind of long though. Just go to
I'll tweet it out, but for those listening,
.org does it too.
Yeah, votesaveamerica.com. Everyone should go on that website because we need to not only get Trump out, but we need a Democratic Senate.
You know what we're dealing with, guys. Think about the long term.
Yeah.
Think about the long term, please. We know this man. He ain't it. He not the type nothing. But listen, we know what we got to do. Like for real, you better than your ancestors. Your ancestors died for you to make this vote for real. If you want to be for real, for real.
Preach. Yeah. So on that note, that is the end of our episode. Jamieson, we thank you for coming on. Do you want to plug anything that you have going on, or the Sunrise Movement, or something that we should be aware of that you all are kind of cooking up, or your efforts in relationship to the election?
Well, yeah, as I said, all the great organizations I mentioned, DSA, DC Tenants Union, Sunrise, get involved, search around, shop around with which organization you feel is it best aligns with you and your values, and definitely join it. And also, like, there's going to be a lot of movement in the next 2 months, especially around DC, around actions against fighting evictions. 28 million Americans are facing evictions between now and December. Yeah. And we're really trying to fight against that. So keep eyes out, keep watching social media. You can follow Sunrise Move in DC on Twitter. And yeah, just keep your eyes peeled and feet on the streets.
Awesome. Well, Jamieson, we thank you so much for coming on and sharing your wisdom, your knowledge. So you can follow us on Twitter and Instagram at WRGO Pod. You can also subscribe and watch on YouTube, where we will all be. You can also subscribe, listen, comment, share on Apple Podcasts, SoundCloud, Spotify, and Google Podcasts. Henry, you got something to say?
Yeah.
I'm gonna wait till you cut it off.
Okay. So that's episode number 55. We appreciate you for listening. Jamieson, thank you once again for joining us. Peace.